Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. All right, quickly. Heather Nauert has taken her name out of the running as the next ambassador to the United Nations, and she was all but, Trump announced that she would be the next ambassador to the United Nations. He hadn't officially nominated her, but he announced it back on the 7th, saying, "I am pleased to announce that Heather Nauert, spokeswoman for the United States Department of State, will be nominated to serve as the United Nations ambassador. I want to congratulate Heather and thank Ambassador Nikki Haley, who she would have been replacing." So she's taken her name out of the running, and there's some reporting on it since that was just announced a few hours ago, or 4 or 5 hours ago is when I saw the story. So initially, when I saw the story, my feeling was that she voluntarily took her name out of the running. She just she didn't want the job, and that was my feeling. My feeling probably remains that way, but there's some new reporting on it from Maggie Haberman over at the New York Times. I just saw it at CNN that what might have caused her to pull her name out of the running, and she's getting this from an official at the White House. Maggie Haberman and Annie Carney, I think, is the person who wrote the story with her. It is saying that she had a nanny who was in the country legally but didn't have the proper work visa, and I think hadn't been paying taxes on her employment, while serving as a nanny for her, something like that, and that's maybe maybe the reason she's pulled her name out of the running, which would come up. Actually, I think she had to write this down on her, on the background check that she would forego for serving in that position. You have to go through, Senate hearings for that. So, and I think a lot of people, because she just didn't have, she didn't have the experience that most people that are nominated to that position have, questioned the nomination. Personally, I like Heather Nauert, and I'm still not clear whether this was her choice or the administration's. It remains unclear to me. Anyways, so in her statement, Heather Nauert said, "I'm grateful to President Trump and Secretary Pompeo for the trust they placed in me for considering me for the position of U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. However, the past 2 months have been grueling for my family, and therefore it is in the best interest of my family that I withdraw my name from consideration. Serving in the administration for the past 2 years has been one of the highest honors of my life, and I will always be grateful to the President, the Secretary, and my colleagues at the Department of State for their support," Nauert said in a statement from the State Department. And the last portion of that statement suggests that she's leaving the administration altogether. I mean, that sounds that way. It doesn't sound like she's just withdrawing her name from the UN ambassador position, but sounds like she's leaving the State Department too. I mean, that's what it sounds like. The State Department said Trump will make an announcement about a new nominee soon. Before she joined the State Department, Nauert employed a nanny who was in the United States legally but was not legally allowed to work. A source familiar with the matter and an administration official told CNN the nanny wasn't paying taxes while she worked, the source said. This was not known when Nauert became the State Department spokeswoman, but she did tell officials when she was offered the United Nations ambassadorship, the source said. Nauert disclosed the nanny when she filled out the paperwork for the UN position. A source close to Nauert, who was helping prepare her for the nomination, told CNN's Kylie Atwood. When it became apparent that in the past week that this would be an issue, Nauert decided to step away because she was not aware of how tough it was going to make it. Nauert became a State Department spokeswoman in April 2017. I don't know. I question that. I do. That somebody, even though she didn't have, the experience that many people thought you need in order to be, the next ambassador to the United Nations. I doubt she was not aware of this would be an issue, or what. I just question this. I just do. So, anyways, I think her husband over here at Al Jazeera was saying that the statement did not specify the hardship on her family, but the Washington Post said Nauert's husband and children had remained in New York while she was working in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Bloomberg News, quoting an anonymous source, said Nauert's nomination began to falter after White House background check discovered that Nauert employed a nanny who was legally in the United States but not authorized to work. Nauert, 49, suggested in the statement that she was leaving government entirely, saying serving in the administration for the past 2 years has been one of the highest honors of my life. So, and then the New York Times continues that people on the Hill were basically starting to get the idea that her nomination was struggling, even though she never formally even submitted paperwork. I had heard from multiple sources on the Hill that her nomination was not going well. Mr. Buren said, I don't know who Mr. Buren is. Heather's background was not commensurate with the experience necessary for one of our most difficult diplomatic assignments. In separate statements, Michael Pompeo, the Secretary of State, described Ms. Nauert's decision as personal. I wish Heather nothing but the best in all her future endeavors, and know that she will continue to be a great representative of this nation, whatever role she finds herself. Although Mr. Trump had announced Miss Nauert for his nominee for the ambassadorship, she had not been formally nominated. Her nomination was proceeding without a complete background check, according to two administration officials in the State Department had not submitted the necessary paperwork to the Senate, raising questions about the delay among Republican Senate staff aides. One person familiar with the current discussion said that Kelly Knight Craft, the ambassador to Canada, was being discussed as a possibility for the role. And I think if you watch cable news, she was a Fox and Friends host. I remember her on Fox. And, she became, I never even knew she was the spokeswoman over at the State Department until some news about the State Department came up. It was actually that sonic weapon story, where we pulled all of our diplomats out of Cuba, when I realized she had become the spokeswoman for the State Department. But supposedly Trump became very fond of her over the first year or so in his administration. Anyways, I don't know. My opinion is I don't think it's the nanny. I think it's her. I think she pulled out, but that's just my opinion, based on kind of where my thinking's been lately, and that's that story there. I think it's pretty. I noticed, like when you, I noticed the Fox News, and the picture's gone from there. That's it right there. That's a small picture. You can't see it in this video very well. But usually Fox News, if somebody is in opposition to Trump, they'll put up an unflattering photo of the person, like with the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They just put the most ridiculous photos of her, as part of the thumbnail in the news feed and stuff. It's just something they do. And that doesn't seem like a very flattering photo. I know that I sound silly, but I'm telling you, I'm not wrong about this, and I just found it odd that Fox would find an unflattering photo for Heather Nauert, a former host on their network, the second she pulls her name out of the running for the ambassadorship to the United Nations. And so Just, I don't know. That's it. Alright, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I will see you in the next video. Later, man.